Welcome and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Singh. Topping our newscast tonight, the VI's Housing Authority finally got the go-ahead to demolish an abandoned housing community in St. Croix. During a board meeting Wednesday, housing officials announced the receipt of a $4 million grant to get rid of the deChabert housing. News 2's Erica Parsons has more.
The Ralph deChabert housing community has been sitting vacant for almost 8 years. Now the seaside property will be demolished.
We will clear all the structures above ground and remove the foundations to a certain level and have it prepared for development.
During the Housing Authority's first board meeting Wednesday since coming back under the agency's control in May, Director Graham told board members about the receipt of the $4 million grant that will be used to tear down the dilapidated buildings. The HUD grant was awarded in May. It's an emergency capital fund grant, and housing officials have been trying for years to get the money to demolish the vacant homes. Officials hope redevelopment of this property will be part of the overall plan to revitalize the town of Christiansted.
We will work with stakeholders to see if it makes sense for us to do a comprehensive revitalization of the entire area, with deChabert and the Christiansted town plan being the anchors.
The St. Croix community approved a town plan in December created by the Economic Development Authority. Those plans mean a facelift for the historic district. Housing officials have 2 years in which to spend the grant, and they don't plan to waste the opportunity.
So we'll have 2 contracts. One is for an architect and engineer to prepare the specifications for a demolition or a contractor to bid on the actual demolition work. We have a very good process, a very good procurement process, and a construction management process, and we will indeed have the site demolished and cleared for development and the funds spent in 2 years. There will not be any funds going back.
Erica Parsons, News 2.
The Housing Authority had been under federal control for almost 11 years until this past May, when it was turned back over to the local government. Senator Alicia Chucky Hansen has submitted a bill request to direct the Department of Public Works to reassign one of the 2 new ferries to provide transportation between St. Croix and St. Thomas. Currently, both new ferries are designated for travel between St. Thomas and St. John. The senator insists both new ferries shouldn't be assigned for inter-island travel between the same 2 islands when there are already ferries on that route, while excluding St. Croix. Currently, she says there's no public ferry service between St. Croix and St. Thomas. She added that the only real option for travel to and from St. Croix is by plane, and it's not affordable for many. The Senate Finance Committee questioned the VI Police Department's need for $7 million in overtime funds. On Wednesday, the department requested an appropriation of $57.6 million in general fund money during the department's fiscal year 2015 budget hearing. The police commissioner detailed some major problems, including shortage of officers, payroll, and department firearms.
How much in overtime did you spend this fiscal year?
This year, so far, we spent about $7.2 million, I believe.
Okay, and I see you asking for $7 million for next year.
Senator, we're trying to take all the necessary steps to cut back overtime as much as possible. This year, compared to last year in spending, we reduced almost $2 million due to a directive that I sent out.
Okay. My question I want to ask you about overtime is, do you have complications covering shift, or is this other duties that officers doing?
Both.
Because I personally, as a fiscal officer, would not grant you no $7 million in ahead of time. I want you to manage your officers and manage your units a lot better than you are. Don't just come here. I've been here already where we passed $8 million one year, another $8 million halfway through the year for overtime, and I don't believe that overtime is being managed. And another question is, and it was asked earlier but not in this context, is, and it was asked in the context of burnout, but I'm asking it in the context of fair distribution of overtime. In other words, I know some officers make their salary is $50,000, and by the time they get overtime for a year, it's over $100,000. You know, and a lot of them are doing that.
If I may?
Sure.
The problem that we have, Senator, and I'll be frank, we have some officers who work overtime and some who just don't want to work any overtime at all. So we try and share it up. We need the manpower, and if an officer shift end at 3 o'clock and there's nobody to supplement that shift, we mandate them to stay another shift because we cannot, of course, abandon the people.
Meanwhile, Crime Stoppers, they're asking you to continue to help make the Virgin Islands a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. If you know something, say something, as the cost of all crime is ultimately paid for by the law-abiding citizens via higher prices and higher taxes. With that in mind, here's this week's Crime Stoppers report on St. John on Monday, June 16th at 12:45 p.m. Police received a report about a burglary at Calabash Boom. The complainant stated that the apartment was broken into and several items were stolen, including a box spring and a mattress. The suspects used a truck or a vehicle large enough to haul the stolen items. On St. Thomas on Saturday, June 7th at 2:30 p.m., a 40-year-old man was in the area of Windward Passage where he met an unidentified man to pick up a package. According to police, he was handed a bag with what appeared to contain counterfeit money and other illegal items. A fight erupted when he refused to accept that bag, and the other man fired shots. Although he was not shot, he did sustain a stab wound from his own knife when he fell on the ground. Over on St. Croix on Saturday, June 14th, about 10 p.m., a 911 operator was notified that 3 people were injured in a shooting at Aria Diaz housing community. The 3 residents of the apartment were shot through the door by an undetermined number of assailants. Police say if you were in this housing community and observed anyone with a gun or running away from the apartment, or you might know the perpetrators, please tell them what you know. Call 1-800-222-TIPS or by calling or texting USVI plus your message to crimes at 274-637. Remember, if your anonymous tip leads to an arrest or the recovery of stolen property, illegal drugs, or weapons, you will receive a cash reward. The CDC is in the territory to help health officials raise awareness about the chikungunya virus. Last week, the Department of Health confirmed 2 new cases of the virus that mirrors the symptoms of dengue fever. Like dengue, chikungunya is spread through infected mosquitoes. This week, CDC officials are making the rounds to doctors across the territory to provide information about the disease. Health officials say they're working closely with the CDC, the 2 local hospitals, waste management, and tourism to help prevent the spread of the disease. Anyone with a fever and severe joint pains, muscle pains, headache, or a rash, you're urged to see a doctor. Turning our attention overseas, the Supreme Court weighed in on the abortion debate Thursday as it winds down its terms. With the justices in agreement, a large protest-free zone outside abortion clinics violate the Constitution. Craig Boswell has more from Washington.
The Supreme Court, in a unanimous decision, struck down a Massachusetts law that made protests illegal within 35 feet of abortion clinics. The court says it violates the First Amendment rights of protesters.
We got a unanimous decision on behalf of our First Amendment rights to peacefully offer information to women who are seeking an abortion.
Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion saying the buffer zones burden substantially more speech than necessary.
The court's opinion today was so strong in saying the last thing really the government can do is restrict speech when it claims there's some alleged problem.
A rash of violent demonstrations outside clinics prompted Massachusetts to enact the law in 2007. Abortion rights advocates are sharply criticizing the Supreme Court's decision. Cecile Richards of Planned Parenthood says the decision shows a troubling level of disregard for American women.
I think that the message the court sent is that women's safety is not a priority when balanced against other rights in this country.
There are a handful of other states with smaller buffer zones, and those have not been overturned. Chief Justice John Roberts made it clear both sides have a right to be on public sidewalks and police can clamp down on harassment. Craig Boswell, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
And keeping our eye on the economy, fewer Americans are looking for work. The Labor Department says first-time jobless claims fell by 2,000 last week to 312,000. Analysts say the numbers suggest businesses are cutting fewer jobs. Here's the New York Stock Exchange with our stock market watch. The Dow, Nasdaq, S&P all down. The Dow 21, S&P down 2. Coming up on News 2, our summer fun segment continues. Here's another fun event you can add to your calendar. How about exploring the skies with a robotic telescope? We'll tell you where. Plus, St. John Festival events are heating up. A preview of all the events coming up, as well as some noteworthy dates. Well, do you find yourself looking up at night under the dark skies? Well, here is something exciting to do this summer. The ETHELMAN Observatory's next public observing night will be held this Friday, June 27th. This is just one of many that are scheduled for the year. You can enjoy a night of astrophysics fun and learn under our beautiful Virgin Island skies. It's from 7 to 10. UVI's College of Science and Mathematics and the ETHELMAN Observatory is hosting using the Virgin Islands Robotic Telescope. Guests will be treated to views of the planets, Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, and the great globular cluster of Hercules, and feature a video presentation and lecture describing the strange environments found on our solar system's many moons. This event is presented free of charge to the St. Thomas community. However, donations are accepted. Space is limited, so you must call UVI to reserve. 2 high school graduates were each awarded $1,200 scholarships by the Rotary Club of St. Croix Thursday. Country Day graduate Cody Cook finished high school in 3 years, while Complex graduate Silkia Carmona finished 6th in a class of more than 200 despite financial hardships. Rotary officials gave the 2 Stanley Farrelly scholarships for their interest in law enforcement and criminal justice.
I'm extremely excited to be earning this scholarship to be able to achieve my academic goals. I'm very interested in forensic science and the science field of law enforcement.
I want to study criminal justice. I have a passion for law. I am very excited because of all the different things I want to do in my life. I'm so thankful to be receiving this so I could pursue my future goals.
A Grand Diamond Jubilee celebration is underway. It's St. John Festival's anniversary, and St. Johnians are inviting you to feel the love on Love City. Here's a preview of events as St. John Festival fun continues. St. John Festival events are already in full swing. Panorama was held, and the following weekends, royalty were selected and crowned. Last weekend, many were out in Cruise Bay to sample some local treats and purchase what was on display. But there's more to come.
Friday, we're going to have the opening of our village. The village is called Smithsville. Village honoree is Miss Leona E. Smith, who incidentally is our chairperson. Our festival food fair honoree, we did that on last Sunday, is Avelino Samuel. A lot of you have known him for doing some very good work with wood, and he was a vocational teacher for many years. And our festival parade grand marshal is LCV Thomas Trotman, who I understand was the first carnival queen.
Some of the bands included in the musical lineup includes Cool Sessions Brass, Poison, Spectrum, Onion, Pampa, Styly, Small Axe, Bungie Garland, Triple K, Michelle Montano, and Patrice Robert.
July 3rd, and Emancipation Day, we're going to have a play, a reenactment of the Emancipation. Early July 4th, we're going to have Juve, and then we have a parade, which is going to start at 11 o'clock, and we're going to have a fireworks display at 9 o'clock that same evening in the harbor. And July 5th, we're going to have some more activities in the village, so we're hoping that everyone will come out.
You should plan ahead for ferry departures. Security will be beefed up.
We're hoping that the St. John community, as well as Tortola and the other islands, come and patronize us like they've been doing all along. We love having you. So come over early. I don't know if there are any more rooms available, but you can try. Then you can always go and visit the beach and walk around. And we have the Vendors Plaza that's been going on now for almost a week and a half, where you can get locally made goods and then stay for the evening. So that St. John, we know, is Love City. That's the moniker for St. John, but you can feel it when you come, and it's just at the area. You'll notice something else that will be different in the village. We've made it a little bit larger by moving some of the booths back. And people are just well taken care of. You don't have to wander too far to get what you need either. So a lot of people like the closeness, the closeness of everything.
Now be sure to count on 2 for all the festival updates as well as the musical lineup in the village. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.